That was my point. And
No,
also,
it wasn't
it wouldn't be
your point.
valid if you don't have a license.
Because you argued against me when I made that point. Bad faith trust.
Crispy.
All right.
In each state.
Mitch, I don't think that Crispy's in bad faith. Will you give her the benefit of the doubt and restart your calibrated
Greetings, everybody.
Right. Okay.
Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Coming at you tonight with some constitutional guarantee of Article 4, which I'm going to hopefully show you is already stated in the Second Amendment. But before we get into that, I've got a little surprise. I hopped on and I've got a situation going on over here at Flow State. So we're going to check him out real quick. They're over there discussing sob sit mumbo jumbo. And so we're going to check them out. They've been talking about common law and trying to state that common law doesn't exist and this and that, and trying to discern what the entity is, how you discern it, this and that. So we're going to listen in a little bit.
A lot of the Americans has lost.
It's crazy that I find myself in a situation where I'm defending the cops as much as I do. That's what's fucking crazy to me.
The way
that'd be funny if he had a license in his back pocket.
American is standing up for your rights, and that's privacy.
Probably
you think I'm gonna want to put my plates and my showing you who and what I am and give you all my information? No.
He does have a license. He gives it. He hands it over in the end.
Oh my God.
No. I'm not required.
See, and that's part of the problem, guys. I did the same kind of shit, you know. If you're going to be out there traveling like this, trying to say you have a right to travel, then you have to know how to issue your authority in regards to that and stand on it firmly. If you're going to assert that you're not driving, then you don't hand over a driver license. You may have one, and this goes to the effect that you may have a driver's license, but if you're not performing commercially at the time, then it doesn't necessarily apply. But it also goes to common sense things like when the mayor asked me, well, what do you do about if you're driving down the road? Do you believe that the speeding laws apply? And I said, most certainly, but it's a matter of common sense. I don't need somebody else to tell me that it's important to maintain a certain speed as it relates to safety, not just for other people, but for myself. And even if there's no other people around, particularly in places like Iowa, where we have other natural inhabitants like animals, you know, all kinds of creatures come running out in front of you in the road. And it's just a matter of using your common sense. This is why we have government, though, is many people don't use their common sense. I am able to do so. In doing so, I don't need those regulations. You can apply them all you want.
Unless I've actually created loss, injury, or harm to people, places, or things. Am I in a process?
So I asked, I did a poll a little bit ago that said, should DUIs be illegal? And 61% said yes, 38% said no. I was surprised to ask you that. It's probably because it's a largely soft audience watching right now.
Should DUIs be illegal? Again, that's going on a commercial instrument. If you don't understand that there is a distinct difference between that, then you won't be able to come up with a remedy. You'll keep bringing up polls like this without offering a solution. People saying yes and no, but having no foundation on what to do about it. So when it comes to the DUIs, it's not so much a commercial process as to be illegal. We should enforce DUIs, but we should do them in a different way than a commercial venue. And it shouldn't be done at the detriment of the family, so that if you've got somebody that does have a what they call a medical condition, they call alcoholism an illness. So if they have an illness, it should be treated medically, not legally.
Now,
did you say DUIs or did you say drunk driving?
Drunk driving. I'm sorry, I said drunk driving. Should drunk driving be illegal?
I pasted a couple of common law things that I just researched for the United States. I can affect that.
Common law is law that is not derived from statute, ordinance, or regulation, but rather is law that is set by a judicial decision.
No, common law is whatever law is commonly observed by whatever society.
Well, then you certainly can't. If that's the case, then you certainly cannot say that driver's licenses are conflict with common law.
I don't ever make that argument. I never have.
Okay, and what they're talking about there is that the courts make the judicial decisions on common law. In other words, the common law exists unwritten. When an issue arises, there is precedent set in the courts. on each issue. If there is not a precedent set by common law courts known as black letter law or case law, then it hasn't been decided. Common law does exist, and case law is its evidence. That is what precedents are. They are decisions made based upon common law rights. That's why we have these case courses or court cases on traveling and driving.
I don't believe in common law.
Criminal activity. Have you seen me in the process of doing any criminal activity? No jurisdiction. You don't have no jurisdiction over me. I have not created any loss, injury, harm, no people, places, or things. You have no reason to do anything to me, and I have no reason to give you any kind of information that you will use against me, because that's how you work. You use.
I just went over that today in the lawful living Zoom, John. They treat everyone as an employee. That's that 15 U.S.C. 4724, where in the United States business means a United States citizen, and resident on the state level is for income tax purposes. It's all about the money. So everybody is treated as an employee.
Why do you think anything I say against me in the courts? Why do you think I want to give you anything? Think about it. Let's be honest. Why would I want to give you something and then you find me and I force to pay it? No, I don't care. You're saying I'm required, sir. By who? By the state law. Okay, who's the state law?
No, the state law doesn't require anything but what is in the state law, the letter of the law. And when they use the term person, we have to be very discretionary about that. It must be determined to a certainty as to the identity. And I'm telling you once again, when they say the individual's name and number identify the record, and they want you to identify yourself, you don't use data elements that are used to identify a record. If that's what they're requiring, then they're requiring you to identify the record and not you. So it is a very discerning thing to determine exactly what is being identified.
Can we pause right here and acknowledge that he is required, whether or not you think it's fair, whether or not you think this law trumps that law, his behavior by pulling over for this guy who is saying that he does have to, his behavior, everybody's behavior verifies that he is subject to that.
No, I'll disagree. It's a pattern of practice that has been instituted so much and so long that everybody believes that it applies to them, when in fact it doesn't. Just because they pull you over does not mean it applies to you. And just because they turn their lights on and you pull over for them does not mean it applies to you. If it doesn't apply, it doesn't apply. And if it doesn't apply and they pull you over by using those lights, they're the ones that committed the felony by announcing an emergency. They do not have the delegated authority to announce an emergency. They must have that emergency from dispatch. If dispatch did not give them notice of an emergency, then they are not supposed to be turning those lights on unless they absolutely see the emergency themselves.
I would say he is subject to state law as it's written, because they say everybody must do it. And I would say that state law is wrong. I think it was hijacked. I'm with the
You can't put feelings in it.
And that goes to the point of the DUI. In that kind of situation, I would most certainly allow a reasonable and logical man to say that somebody traveling down the road on a highway doing 65 miles an hour, weaving in and out of the traffic, crossing lanes and stuff like he's drunk, most certainly pull him over and investigate. That could be very dangerous. I agree. There are things that you have to use reason and logic on when you're dealing with whether these laws apply to any one person, rather than the situation. That's the distinction between common law and commercial law.
Well, you made a good point. Why did he pull over?
And you don't fight the cop, you go to court to fight.
That's right.
Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I think that Flo is, I don't mean to speak for Flo, but my perspective of what Flo's trying to say is that he's not standing strong enough on whatever position he's trying to claim, at least. Even if there is legitimacy to whatever he's trying to claim.
I think that to claim that you're not subject to something, right? If you actually believe that, then you would behave as if you're not subject to something. I'm not subject to Mitch, right? So if Mitch got behind me and started talking to me through bullhorn and said, pull over, I'm Mitch and I demand you pull over, I'd be like, no.
Yeah, right.
My behavior would reflect.
No, I'm not subject to these guys. I just know Mitch ain't gonna beat my.
Okay, and that goes to them lights again. See, everybody thinks they're subject to those lights, so they just automatically pull over. Okay? And if you don't think you're subject to those lights and they're just going to go on by, but they don't, and you pulled over so they could go on by and they stop behind you, Just because they stop behind you still does not mean those laws apply to you. Again, you have to understand the context. And knowing that you have to have enough research to find out what is supposed to happen will allow you to see that technically, if they see somebody speeding down the road and they have a license plate, they can find out who that person is and where they live through the license plate, and they can issue a summons with a personal waiver in the appropriate service of process through the U.S. Postal Service, the registered agent to perform that service. That's legitimately what they're supposed to do. It's called diplomatic channels of notice under 22 CFR 93.1, foreign relations, because you are foreign to the corporate entity. They have to have permission from the United States through that diplomatic notice to file a suit against a United States business known as a United States citizen.
My ass like the police
Right.
will, but I don't
Okay,
believe I'm
well,
subject to them for a
if
You don't
second.
know
you
that.
are still subject, then even if you think the only reason that you obey them is because they'll beat your ass, right?
Yes.
That is still you being subject to them. You don't have to agree with the validity of somebody to be subject to them.
Okay, well, that's a definite.
I agree, John. There's no need to have Article 3 courts if we don't have Article 3 cops. We need people that understand and comprehend the Article 3 courts as well as the Article 1 courts and the distinct differences. And this goes to the 22, 23, 24-year-old young women and men that are filling our police forces these days. They cannot possibly have the moral aptitude built up in themselves yet, let alone the education of the court system that requires these bar attorneys to spend 7, 8, 10, 12 years in college to get their degrees and stuff and specialize. Who the fuck do these people think they are that they think they can enforce the law and not even know the law? It's pathetic.
To subject anybody. In that case, the gang member who comes up, the guy who's trying to rob me, maybe subject to all of them. I don't think
Correct.
that's what you're talking about.
I mean, I'm saying that just as a matter of practicality, you are subject to somebody who has authority over you. That authority can be imposed or it can be granted. But to say that
And I'll agree there. It can be imposed or granted. And if you don't accept the power that you've already been granted by the providence of His grace and let that power flow through you, then the fictional power of a person will flow through you and you will act accordingly to those characteristics, that personality. Instead of seeing yourself as wearing the hat, you will see yourself as the person. You got to quit it. There's a distinct difference.
you're not subject to somebody's authority.
I can get my ass whooped. Don't mean they have authority over me, right?
In that moment, it does.
Somebody can get the rock and kick my ass. And just give authority. Or I think we're changing the definitions here. I thought authority meant something else.
Authority,
Not
just
just
because
power.
authority, you can have just because I'm saying somebody has authority doesn't mean that it's valid authority. I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying as a matter of action, of practical behavior, that is what it is. The only reason any laws have authority over us is because they're enforced by violence.
Well, we gave them the authority, or the state
Chuck,
did.
will you stop making me disagree with you immediately? We
I'm
did not
not
give them the
about-
authority. They took the authority.
And I'm going to show you real quick. This is an Investopedia, folks. This is in the commercial venues. The commercial venue does recognize common law, and it says common law is a body of unwritten laws based on legal precedents established by courts. Common law influences the decision-making process in unusual cases where the outcome cannot be determined based on existing statutes or written rules of law. So it's something outside of their law. Okay? That's what common law is. If you know and understand what your common law capacity is, you can stay outside of their statutes and rules of law by expressing the opposing dynamic. The U.S. common law system evolved from a British tradition that spread to North America during the 17th and 18th century colonial period. Common law is also practiced in Australia, Canada, Hong Kong, India, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom. A precedent known as stare decisis is a history of judicial decisions which form the basis of evaluation for future cases. Common law, also known as case law, relies on detailed records of similar situations and statutes because there is no official legal code that can apply to a case at hand. The judge presiding over a case determines which precedents apply to that particular case. The example set by higher courts is binding on cases tried in lower courts. In other words, the Supreme Court's case law sets precedent for the lower courts. The lower courts have to follow the Supreme Court already set out. However, lower courts can choose, this system promotes stability and consistency in the U.S. legal justice system. However, lower courts can choose to modify or deviate from precedents if they are outdated or if the current case is substantially different from the precedent case. Lower courts can also choose to overturn the precedent, but this rarely occurs. So again, it's a matter of knowing what your common law perspective is yourself. You cannot do this stuff through an attorney. There is no written law for them to look up. You have to use your reason and logic. You have to be intelligent about it. You have to have a conciseness and a composition. So let's take a look. First, I've got this video.
This because I'm a father, but I got to tell you.
As it goes to the ingenuity of fathers and ladies, and I know this is off topic, but it's a short video that kind of just makes a very poignant point for me that I want to point out. So please pay attention to the ingenuity of a father when it comes to the home style and making things convenient.
I'm not just saying this because I'm a father, but I got to tell you, man, dads do not get the respect they deserve, especially dads like this. This guy got triplets, and he figured out how to go alpha dad mode. Check it out.
Oh my gosh, it's triplets. Oh my gosh, there's 3 of them. Okay, how is he gonna push all of those by himself? So it looks like he's connecting them somehow. Okay, now I'm intrigued. Does it go on the bottom? Oh, and then that one goes there. Can I ask you a question? Did you make this or did you buy this?
I made it. The front, you can control the front.
So you literally just made this up?
Yeah, I figured there's already wheels on it.
Then I'm go.
So Dad, by his experience and having to deal with 3 kids all by himself, created something that allows him to do it all by himself. Whereas most of the time, what I see, if it comes to a woman is going to go get some other family members or use some older siblings to help her push those kids. She's not going to be ingenuitive and create something so that she can do it all by herself. Women, for a general part, want help in doing things. They are very social, so they don't like doing things by themselves. This is where the ingenuity and the independence of a man comes in creating those comforts and inconveniences for you women when you have 3 children at once. So please learn how to start appreciating your men, folks. So the next one I got is from LII-WEX. To get into this constitutional thing, first we're going to start out with the officious intermeddler. As it relates to the Constitution, like I said, you are not part of the Constitution. The Constitution bears down the rules and guidelines that the government is supposed to follow. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 14. Congress shall make rules for the government. Nowhere else does it say it makes rules for the people or anything else. It says Congress shall make rules for the government. Okay? When it comes to the state government has no executive or legislative power to make rules for their government. They are already laid out in the federal government outlines, the Congress. This is why you have to learn to quit letting these state people say, well, we don't have anything to do with the federal code. The fuck you don't. Congress makes rules for the government. As a government body, you do not get your powers, your just powers, from the executive or the state executive or legislative venues. You get them from Congress. So, officious intermeddler, a person who confers a benefit on another without request or without a legal obligation, and is therefore not entitled to compensation from the recipient. So if the government gives you a Social Security card as a benefit, and you use that, and they use that to demand compensation, that is known as officious intermeddling. They conferred, a person who confers a benefit, they conferred a nationality as if though it was a gift upon you, known as a business. And now we're holding you to business laws, contract laws, corporate laws, even though you're unincorporated and unorganized and have not the one clue as to what's going on the other side of the counter. The officious intermeddler rule protects those who have unsolicited benefits thrust upon them and punishes those who thrust benefits upon others. While the recipient is enriched by the officious intermeddler's actions, it is not considered unjust enrichment. For example, if a gardener mows the lawn of the wrong house and the owner of the house watches and is pleased that the gardener is mowing his lawn, then the gardener conferred a benefit to the owner. And it would be unjust for the owner not to pay the gardener. However, the gardener cannot foist this benefit on the homeowner. For example, by mowing the lawn while the owner is not home and then requesting payment. Okay? So, Constitution, Article 4, Section 1, historical background on guarantee of a Republican form of government. United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republic form of government, and shall protect each of them against invasion, and on application of the legislature or of the executive, against domestic violence. Article 4, Section 4 is generally known as the Guarantee Clause. Through its terms, the United States makes 3 related assurances to the states. Those are grants. Remember, we looked up the etymology of grant, and it said assurance. So it makes 3 related grants to the states. And grant being an assurance or a guarantee, the same thing. So they're just using different words that mean the exact same thing. So, the Grant Clause. Through its terms, the United States makes 3 related grants to the states. A grant of a Republican form of government, protection against foreign invasion, and upon request by the state, protection against internal insurrection or rebellion. So now we have both foreign and domestic violence. Okay? An early version of the Guarantee Clause, and that's an important thing right there when it comes to that foreign and domestic violence. Like I said, this Constitution under Article 4's guarantee already states a guarantee in its Second Amendment. An early version of the Guarantee Clause was among the resolutions of the Virginia Plan introduced at the Constitutional Convention by Edmund Rudolph and attributed to James Madison. The resolution went through several formulations during the debates at the convention. During a key debate, Governor Morris objected to the resolution because he should be very unwilling that such laws as exist in Rhode Island ought to be guaranteed. Rudolph explained that rather than cementing the existing laws of the states, the resolution had two objects: to secure Republican government and to suppress domestic commotions. Along with concerns about rebellions, delegates expressed fears that a monarchy might arise in a particular state and establish a tyranny over the whole United States. In other words, the first one was to secure Republican government so that monarchies couldn't arise. And to prevent those monarchies from arising and securing that Republican form of government, they had to help suppress the domestic commotions. And this is the military branch. See, the state doesn't have its own military. It has a militia, but it does not have a military. Okay? Again, the very important distinction between foreign violence and domestic violence. Along with concerns about rebellions, answering Morris's objection, Madison moved to substitute language that the constitutional authority of the states shall be guaranteed to them respectively against domestic as well as foreign violence. With Rudolph then moving to add language that no state shall be at liberty to form any other than a Republican government. James Wilson then introduced, as a better expression of the idea, language substantially similar to the final form of the Guarantee Clause, which the convention approved unanimously. In light of its text and framing, the Guarantee Clause was intended to be more than an authorization for the federal government to protect states against foreign invasion or internal insurrection, a power already conferred elsewhere in the Constitution. Where was that power already conferred in the Constitution? See, when it comes to securing the Republican form of government, that was already done. You have a republic if you can keep it. The people failed their responsibility in keeping that Republican form of government. While the precise contours of what constitutes a Republican form of government are debatable, an additional object of the Guarantee Clause was to prevent states from establishing monarchical or despotic governments. If they can prevent that, then there's no reason for a militia to rise up. However, that guarantee that the militia be well regulated is dependent upon the people that regulate it themselves, the private people. It takes your involvement, folks. Except for a brief period during Reconstruction, the authority granted by the Guarantee Clause has been largely unexplored. The Supreme Court and other federal courts have largely declined to hear legal challenges based on the Guarantee Clause because they present non-justiciable political questions. That non-judicial political question is the fact, again, like I said, the people have failed to maintain that republic and show their opposing political dynamic as a militia, being ready, willing, and able to throw off that despotic government at the local level and replace it with the republic form of government. Greetings, sister. How you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm good. I just got excited because you're talking about this section and it mentioned Rhode Island, and I just wanted to ask a question if you could clarify, because it wasn't clear to me when they said that he was afraid that such laws would exist as in Rhode Island. Did that mean that he didn't? Could you clarify that?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he didn't want the laws of Rhode Island to be cemented into history, because Rhode Island wasn't actually Rhode Island. It was Rhode Island Plantation. Does that make sense? Does that connect things? They were wanting slavery in the North, which was an opposing dynamic to what was going on at the time. Remember the Boston Tea Party? They didn't want slavery in that sense. So when Rhode Island Plantation had its governing laws that looked more like slave laws, they were saying that no, that's not a republic form of government. That's a slave form of government. That's the kind of government they didn't want. That proved to be more monarchical than what the American colonies was trying to create through a federal government.
How much has changed? Did that have anything to do with them saying that, they didn't want to, did they not want to sign up for the Constitution, or did they, what else has changed with regard to that? They just took the name plantations out like a couple of years ago, but
Right.
yeah, not much has changed probably. And what did they
No.
mean? Oh,
And
yeah.
that's why I say it's important to unlearn what you've been taught in this English system. They did not teach you the proper English, so you need to unlearn that, get back to concise English, and of course get some college composition in you so you can learn how to start writing. Because when it comes to this stuff, you have to be able to put down in logical order the timeline of events to show that you are of the common law and that the statute doesn't in fact apply. And that's the whole thing about rebutting their legal presumption. The legal fiction is a presumption of the facts presented to the court until properly rebutted. And the only way you can properly rebut them is to know that those are commercial systems and they don't apply to you. Now you have to be able to explain how they don't apply. That's using their definitions. Their definitions apply to person. That's why I said anything that starts out, any person, stop right there. Stop right there and get to a discernment as to the identity of the person itself. Is it identifying yourself, or is it identifying a record? If it's identifying a record, what jurisdictional record is it identifying? And is it a commercial record? Is it a medical record? Is it got private details that shouldn't be in there as government information? These kind of things. So let's go on. We've got what is it? Where? I missed it. Section 8, Clause 15. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15. Congress's power to call militias. Congress shall have power to provide for calling forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union. Not the laws of the state. The laws of the Union. Suppress insurrections and repel invasions. The states, as well as Congress, may prescribe penalties for failure to obey the president's call of the militia. They also have a concurrent power to aid the national government, not supersede it and say, well, we don't follow them. We are our own special little kingdom here. No, you can't do that.
Yeah, they want to take the money and they want to do their own thing. They want their cake and eat it too.
Well, yeah, and they're doing that through the blue sky securities laws at the state level that mimic the federal securities laws, and nobody's saying anything about it because nobody really knows what's going on. It's all being done underhandedly behind the counters. By calls under their own authority, and in emergencies may use the militia to put down armed insurrection. The federal government may call out the militia in case of civil war. Its authority to suppress rebellion is found in the power to suppress insurrection and to carry on war. Its authority to suppress rebellion is found in the power to suppress insurrection and to carry on war. So if it's Congress that calls forth the militia, how good is it if we suppress the gun laws so that we don't have a militia? That doesn't sound very intelligent of the people. Again, it's your responsibility as the militia to stand as the militia. See, Congress shall call forth the militia if they deem it necessary. However, a well-regulated militia on its own can do all it needs to as far as plenipotentiary powers, as long as they hold those plenipotentiary powers. Like I said, don't go having a militia put down something without having to be able, the knowledge to be able to replace that system with something comparable to at least, at minimum, a Republican form of government. Pure and simple. So let's see, what was the next one? I want to go back here and Article 1, Section 4, Clause 2. In Luther versus Borden, the Supreme Court in 1849 held that questions arising under the Guarantee Clause are generally political and not judicial in character. So again, it goes to your political venue as to whether you're a registered voter as a United States citizen, and you do have a capacity to have both that citizenship and an American capacity, American citizen, American national capacity. Just like the contract, if you're a doctor, you're not always on the clock. When you're not on the clock, you can be wearing a different hat. So while you're not a United States citizen, you could be an American that is operating as a well-regulated militia. Understand these concepts. Luther was formally in action for damages for trespass, but under the rather unusual circumstances of Dorr's Rebellion, a pro-suffrage revolt that led to two competing claimants for Rhode Island's lawful government. There you go, Iona. The defendants in Luther justified their breaking and entering into the plaintiff's home under a declaration of martial law, and based on the plaintiff's alleged participation in insurrection. The plaintiff questioned the authority and Republican character of the state government, alleging the defendants to be insurrectionists. Thus, to adjudicate the trespass claim in Luther was in effect to decide which of two rival governments was the legitimate government of Rhode Island. Chief Justice Roger Taney held that the political branches of government, and not the federal courts, should decide such questions. It rests with Congress to decide what government is established one in a state, is the established one in a state, as well as its Republican character. So again, it's not a court issue. It's a congressional issue. That's where it stems from. That's where you got to go for rectification, reconciliation. Luther further held that it rested with Congress to determine the proper means to fulfill the guarantee. The proper means to fulfill the guarantee is already stated, the Second Amendment, the right of the people to bear and keep arms. You bear arms in this time of necessity. You keep them in case you need them again in times of necessity. Although the court suggested that Congress might have empowered the judiciary to decide whether the federal government should intervene, Congress had instead authorized the president to call out the militia in the case of insurrection against the state's government. So here I want to point out, again, the legislature has no business doing anything on the gun laws. They are not the authority of a well-regulated militia. Everything they are doing in those legislatures is in error. They do not have the authority. It is a congressional authority. They cannot amend it through legislature of judicial courts. It has to be done through Congress. It followed, reasoned Chief Justice Taney, that the president must, of necessity, decide which is the government and which party is unlawfully arrayed against it before he can perform the duty imposed upon him by the act of Congress. This political determination is not subject to judicial review. Where is it they don't understand this Constitution, folks?
Here comes Texas versus White.
Yep. During Reconstruction, the court in Texas versus White posited that the president's actions in establishing temporary state governments in the defeated Confederate states at the end of Civil War was justified as an exercise of his powers as commander-in-chief. Of course, just like I said before, if you're going to rise up as a militia and tear down a despotic government, you have to have the ability to be able to replace it. You can't sit there on your thumb thinking, well, what do we do next? You have to be prepared. If you want equity, you must first come with equity. If you want peace, you must come with peace.
Yeah, and the word chief is like Native American.
Yes. That's that federal government. That's that federation of tribes that the federal government got the idea from. Because the power to carry into effect the clause of guarantee is primarily a legislative power and resides in Congress, not in the states. However, those arrangements were necessarily provisional. It was generally up to Congress to organize and recognize new Republican governments in these states. That's what happened when they went along and did that Louisiana purchase and started sectioning all things off into states, and they started purchasing by states the Republican form of government by ceding to it. That's a purchase. It's a contract. The next major controversies under the Guarantee Clause arose in the Progressive Era, where various state popular democratic reforms were alleged to destroy the Republican form of government ensured by the clause. And why does everybody think we have a democracy today? See, we do, and that's the problem. Even though the Constitution still stands and ensures a Republican form of government, everybody admits we have a democracy. Do you see the insanity? In Pacific States Telephone and Telegraph Company versus Oregon, the Supreme Court in 1912 declined to address a claim that the popular initiative and referendum provisions of Oregon's Constitution violated the Guarantee Clause. Relying on Luther versus Borden, the court dismissed the case for lack of jurisdiction as a political question, conferred upon Congress and not, therefore, within the reach of judicial power. You have to go to Congress with this stuff, folks. In later cases, summarily dismissing similar challenges, and I'll make a point here right now. Lack of political jurisdiction as political question. See, I'm not in a political jurisdiction, but yet everybody claiming that resident, that's exactly what that is. That's a political subdivision. A political subdivision known as a mayoral form of government, not a Republican form of government. Don't you get it? In later cases, summarily dismissing, in other words, the simple relegation that I'm a resident, you already gave up your Republican form of government because you don't know it. You don't know the term resident. You don't know what the hell you're saying. Nobody taught you, and you don't want to take upon the ultimate task of relearning yourself as an autodidactic or even getting a tutor to help you. In later cases, summarily dismissing similar challenges, Pacific States and Luther came to stand for the proposition that guarantee clause questions are never justiciable. Baker versus Carr, despite its general curbing of the political question doctrine, left these guarantee clause precedents intact. They have not been removed. They are intact. It's the people that are not following them. We don't have a militia to have them overturned. And again, the militia doesn't have to rise up and go around killing people. The militia is the one body of people that is responsible for knowing what the republic form of government is so that they can teach the people that are in these democracy offices, hey, you're doing it wrong. That's what all this sovereign citizen bullshit is. There's a different form of government that we're guaranteed under this guarantee clause that nobody comprehends. And they're just running it as a democracy because they've been induced to believe so. You have to get over your believing.
The sovereign citizen is these courts.
Correct. The Supreme Court continued to follow them through the 1980s. City of Rome versus United States, Quinn versus Millsap. Let me grab that note. And there you go, folks. It's down in chat. Go ahead and grab that. Take a look at it. This is what we need to found our republic form of government on, based on some of the current cases, and understand that it's up to us. The government that we have now as a democracy are nothing but a bunch of inside traders, both at the state level through this, like I said, the state's blue sky securities laws. They're mimicking the federal government as the national securities goes. And that's all insider trading by the members of Congress. It's all insider trading. They know private and public government details that allow them to buy in and get out before it falls, or do the credit default swaps that are almost automatic guarantee investments, things like that. In the 1990s, however, the court in dicta raised the possibility that perhaps not all claims under the guarantee clause present non-justiciable political questions. In Gregory versus Ashcroft, the court suggested that the guarantee clause might operate as a constraint upon Congress's power to regulate the activities of the states. More recently, however, the court has continued to find guarantee clause questions non-justiciable despite opportunities to revive the clause. So again, you have to understand, folks, it's our duty, it's our obligation. If we want that republic form of government, we have to maintain it. That means we have to learn about it. We have to understand what it is. These people have no desire to learn what it is. They find it very comfortable in their seats of emolument in this demo crazy, where the balance is very fine between 51 and 49% and can flip at any time. So let's take a look and see what they're doing on the flow state here again. See if they're still running.
They took the authority and they gaslighted us.
I'll agree with that.
You think you would have got justice?
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen to Mitch at the end of this tape.
No. I mean, with the two occasions or three where he's been targeted after the first time, they were picking on him, pretty much.
Is he
Do you think he would have got justice if they didn't tape him?
Is he being targeted, or is he just thumbing or flipping off the cops as he's driving by with a private license plate?
No, he doesn't have a private license plate, to my knowledge.
Eric, she's not familiar with Mitch's
okay.
situation.
I thought she was. I'm sorry. All right.
No.
She just said she wasn't.
So it sounds
My
like all
apologies.
of the audits.
That's all right.
But it doesn't matter if you do have a private plate and such and no insurance and all that. That's evidence that they are targeting you. That is a targeting scheme. The guy without a license plate is targeted already. The guy with a private property placard is targeted already. They're trained to look for those and pull them over. That is targeting.
And the people such as Virgil, they also bring value because they're exposing where the gap in the chaos is. And
Virgil's not an auditor.
I'm not saying next week or the week after, but there is going to come a time, because earlier when y'all were speaking, y'all were talking about how one word has two different meanings.
Yes.
There will come a time when everybody will understand the meaning, because they will now bring it in because of all of this chaos. Y'all were asking, is it the impact on the system with two different laws being state law or the government law? Are y'all going to somehow, what's going to happen with?
If that were the case and everybody would eventually learn the dualities and multiplicities of meanings, they'd have done that a long time ago by picking up a fucking thesaurus. That's how easy it is. Dictionary, thesauruses, concise English handbook, college composition handbook.
Is that going to fuse a little
I
bit?
love it. I love it. That's my biggest reason.
But that's the thing. People don't want to do that. People don't want the knowledge. It's too much work. Again, that's why I say it's our job. It's our duty as the people to uphold that Republican form of government. We can keep it, but we lost it, and it's sitting there. Nobody's using it. Nobody's revived it.
The reason I ain't listen to soft sets and all that shit is because I think that exactly what they did. It could not be meant for everything to become commerce, and they just get some money from everyone. I think that they would have been smart enough to leave Rome because they were so enthusiastic about leave man alone. So I think these cats had an argument. I just don't have the time.
And it can be in this lifetime. If we all remember with Rodney.
These cats have an argument, but I just don't have the time. That's the problem. Everybody thinks they don't have the time. Why would you not spend your time on resolving that problem that is making you destitute?
King, right? Rodney King. We saw the cops pull over and we saw how he got at, how that went down, versus now you see Virgil in his car with the window barely cracked open, talking cash money shit, and the cops just sitting there. Okay.
I love it.
Changes are being made. Perhaps they're not quick. It's someone, but come on, man.
We just come off here. Let me talk again for a little bit, but I just come from Audit. I've been all day with Audit Pimp, another rapper here in Chicago. I'm sorry, rapper. That's funny. An Audit here in Chicago. He goes and files FOIA requests. That's what he does. He's the best at it. And I spent the day with him, and we went to the Daily Plaza, which is next door to City Hall. All our government buildings in there. I don't know, 30th floor, whatever the fuck. And he's been to every floor.
Oh, and by the way, guys, a little bit of news here, just for everybody's sake. I have been doing my research here lately and calling, like I said, I'd be talking to the insurance companies that are carrying these bonds and everything. And I've got the information both for the local Waterloo City Police Department as far as their bonds and stuff. And I've got the stuff for the state's judicial officers and agents here at the local county level. So I've got that information ready for the IRS agent when I get ready to go in and do the initiation of a forensic audit on all these accounts in a couple weeks. So I'll keep everybody up to date. And like I said, it's just a matter of doing your research. And I know it does. I know it's a lot. I mean, the gal that I spoke to yesterday in regards to the Waterloo Police Department and their surety bond and their fidelity bond, she was kind of curious. Evidently, she doesn't run across people like myself too much, because I was giving her information. She says, "Where'd you get this information?" And I'm going to tell you folks the same thing I told her. I'm just a deep researcher that has learned how to ask some very good and important questions. That's all it is. I'm not here to make any accusations or false claims. I've learned to ask some very good questions. And when I ask people questions and they refuse me answers and stuff, I'm going to get frustrated, of course. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stop searching. I am going to find the answer with or without you.
And he's got videos of where he goes in there and asks for FOIA. They tell him, listen, man, do it online. That's our policy. Get out, call the police on him. And there's so many fucking officers in there. He just goes to the next fucking floor, next fucking floor. And he's been training these guys. I went there today. These were the most polite fucks on the planet. He has taught giving us the best public employees that money could buy. In fact, I was giving them shit because there were signs in, I don't know, transfer's office or something that said no recording. They didn't say anything about it. And they're all over the fucking place. Yeah. In their face now saying, by the way, in that FOIA, I want to know who's got these signs up for there's no filming in public places. Yes, sir, you can FOIA that too. They didn't say put the camera down. Everybody was polite as fuck. He did that. An auditor did that. There's more money. How much money?
And that's important. When we ask these, when we get into these audits, he's talking about audit them. One of the greatest auditors I know of, check him out, audit them. That's his name here on YouTube, audit them. And he goes around and does an excellent job, like he said. And in those Freedom of Information Act requests, he's asking questions. And he asked them questions. Who gave you the authority to put up that sign that says no video? And that's a valid question. They have to answer it. And if they don't, they have to take the sign down because they show no authority. It's that simple. Greetings, Robert. How you doing tonight?
I'm good, brother. Hey, you're playing really fast. I don't know if anybody else is picking that up. Maybe it's just my computer.
Yeah, I've got it on double speed because we're behind.
Oh, it's really fast. I can't even understand what they're saying.
Okay, I'll slow it down a little bit.
For my slow mind, thank you.
Money would it have cost to do that shit? The city, tens of thousands.
The cops aren't even threatened by the cameras anymore. I think that's fine.
No, that's not true. Bad cops are threatened by cameras. Good cops have no problem with you filming.
Yeah, I agree.
Well,
I'm just proud of what you do. You are perfectly happy to have people with.
He makes a great point there. Good cops shouldn't have a problem with you filming them. Not at all. It's the bad cops that want to come up and start accosting you and getting in front of you and stuff and trying to get right in your face and intimidate you. Those are the bad cops. That's why I'm going forth with this claim here now, because of that last trespass, which brings up another funny situation coming up Sunday. I think I'm going to go to church. Yep. I'm going to walk my ass right across that parking lot. And I'm going to see if this church truly has its doors open to sinners, as they call me a sinner, and want me to go to them for repentance and forgiveness. I'm going to see if they open their arms to the sinner that they claim to be a sinner, that's going to bring down the almighty word of God to prove that their blasphemous bullshit doesn't stand.
Witness it. If you are not proud of what you're doing, it's probably dirty, and you don't want people knowing about it. So people who get upset about cameras are the people you should be watching closely.
It's certainly a red flag, right? If you're out there and there are 12 cops and most of them are cool, and hey, the one that gives you a double take, immediately he's gonna walk over there and blah blah blah.
I watched one with a cop who talked her out. She was like, "I'm not coming out. You don't have the right." And he talked her out so good that the other cops on the scene said, "Man, you are a professional." He never once lost his temper. Nothing. The other cops complimented me, and they said, "No, you were very professional." And the way you could tell he knew that game, because she just opened up the door after he got done with his show at speech.
And that's an important aspect when it comes to me and these police officers, public officials, or anything. If you get rude with me one little bit, I already know that you're in your feelers, and that's how you make your paycheck, is just doing your job. You don't need to tell me. I know already you don't have a standing of moral ethics.
And just stood up, and she put her hands behind his back. I mean, nah. But it's only because y'all are bringing changes. These
rational people. That doesn't work with an irrational person who's not willing to listen to reason.
Well, we can't assume.
Speak of the devil, Scott. I've kicked you out several times already because you don't add anything to this conversation. In fact, you just tried to drag us back to conversations we've already had a bunch of times. Don't come back until we're talking about the
thing. I wasn't going to say anything.
Come back when we're on a different topic altogether.
I was such a troll. All I was thinking, say commerce.
Flow State, did you play that video I sent you? If you're okay with it, it's a 2-minute video about the repossession of any house or land, so people can understand that you have the right to do it.
Let me see it.
Yeah, you can see it in like 2 minutes.
What would this video explain, Terry, specifically?
That any property that's been, say it's empty and nobody lives in it, and the state say hasn't found a buyer for it, you can actually claim it and live in it until they find somebody to buy that that property or the land.
No, I'm not going to play this. It's an ABC news site. And
okay, you can watch it on your own. It's fine, but this is one of them.
Yeah, I'm not disputing that anyway. I know that to be true because I've seen the story.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and what they're talking about here is adverse possession. Some people want to call it squatter's law. It's not squatter's law. That's what they like to call it as citizens. And that's what they say. Bring me your sit mumbo jumbo, flow state live. And that's fine. But see, it's adverse possession. It is a legal term. You can look it up. Each state has their own adverse possession laws, and you just have to follow those laws. It's a matter of maintenance and cure. Taking care of the property. That's land stewardship at its natural basic element. That's the basis of adverse possession. Go in and take care of abandoned property. As long as nobody else comes along and makes a valid claim to that property as to their abandonment, then you get to keep it as an adverse possessor.
Look, let me ask you another question. Did you ever read the book To Redeem the Law Land? There's books out there. It's called The Redeem Law Land, where you can redeem any land under the law.
What? You can redeem any
Oh,
land?
yeah, it's not a purchase.
Yes, Leviticus 25 verses 23 through 25. The land shall not be sold forever, for it is mine, and ye are strangers and sojourners with me. In all of the lands of your possession, ye shall grant a redemption to the land. If your brother be waxen and poor, and hath sold off some of his belongings, and one of his next of kin come along to redeem him, he shall redeem his brother. It's already written. What is done is what ought be done. There is nothing new under the sun. It is as set. That is the asset, the knowledge of knowing it's already there, and that by them rewriting it in a mimicking way is nothing but a reiteration that might be false. You better rightly divide the words to make sure if it's true or not.
Yeah, you keep thinking mortgage and all that. It's not a purchase. You're redeeming.
Yeah, I'm just asking because I don't agree. Do you agree with just taking over someone's house because it's empty?
No, it's nobody's house. You don't know. No. Again, it is nobody's house because the state takes it over. That's why you never own it.
Wait. Is it really?
Again, yes, because like he said, if it's abandoned, the state takes over the property through the municipal mayoral form of government as a maintenance upkeep. If the maintenance isn't kept up, you have the right to go in and take over the maintenance.
Hey, Keith. That's what I think you and I have discussed this in the past. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm in the process of doing that right now with 96 acres that's left. It's beside me, and there's no home on it. But what has happened, and this is for everybody, it's been used as a dump. I live up in a lake area.
I saw those pictures, brother, and I'm telling you, folks, the pictures this man has shown me, this is egregious destruction of the land by people that have no concern about the land, and yet they're trying to prevent this man from going in and cleaning it up. It's pathetic.
So what I did was I basically, it's landlocked. The land has access on past my property and another property. What I did real quick is I posted no trespassing signs. I took charge of the land. I notified all the land owners, not neighbor land owners. That's a big difference. I know we're talking non-ownership. We don't own it. We control it. We take care of it. And I just posted and I talked to them all. They agreed with me. Nobody was willing to help. So I posted a notice. And I'm giving to the owner, everybody else, I'm giving him 5 years. Maybe I'll give him 2 years if nothing happens. So I'm getting a little tired of taking care of it. And then I'm going to go down and take it over. I'm just going to place a couple stamps, pay that tax on that property and own it. Not because I want it. 96 acres is a lot of work, but because nobody else is taking care of it. And that is my duty. It's everybody's duty to do that. Abandoned house, abandoned property, same thing.
Yeah, and when it comes to situations like that, it's always nice to have a group of people that understand this. With 96 acres, like Robert's saying, that's a lot for him to take care of. But if we had a private member association of people that could go in and start up a little community or something, 96 acres is a pretty good start.
Exactly, Keith. Exactly. And where your mind is thinking on that, you're correct. It just so happens that I was the first one to place that idea. It's hard to find people. I have not had to place any documentation with anybody. The county, I have, but I have not had to. All I had to do is explain my will, my duty. And I use it, well, I'm your brother. you're my brother. We stand together in the eyes of God. What are they going to
Yeah.
say to you? Oh, they're not going to say anything. And that's
Exactly.
all
Exactly.
So
And that's what I'm talking about, bringing these people up to our standards. You do not want to be my friends, folks. I will have you out there cleaning up every fucking cigarette butt because that's my standard.
or not, if they don't have to. It's
Well, that's
documented in my record that they didn't want to.
right, and that's what I mean. If you want to be a part of my association, you have to stand up to my standards. If you're walking down the mountain trail with me and I'm picking up cigarette butts, I expect you to be picking up cigarette butts and trash too.
Or at least not flicking cigarette butts down as you smoke them.
Right, right. I'm not going to hold you to that expectation and make you, but if I go on a mountain hike with you and you don't, I may or may not go on another mountain hike with you. I might find somebody else that is a little bit more applicable to my standards that will do that with me.
There you go. Because when we expect somebody to do something, at least I'll speak for myself. I set myself for a letdown every time. I give somebody $5 because they need it. They ask me. And if I expect that back and they don't pay me, I've set myself up pretty good for a letdown, hatred. So I just give it as a gift. If they don't do it, hey, that's on them. I don't hold that. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and that's the way I'm going through with this initiation of the forensic securities audit. Let me pull something up here. This is what.
Keep us abreast of that too, if you could.
Oh yeah.
I've never gone and actually called them out on something. I've filed documents through them because that's what we're supposed to do. But I've never really called them out and said, "Hey, let's do a forensic audit." So I'm curious.
Yeah,
that's really
and so what I've got is I've got my communications both in person, over the phone, and through emails to the district attorney and the board of directors of Black Hawk County, and I've gotten no response, which is basically ignoring. I've got denial saying that they don't deal with probate situations, and I've got well, let's just read this, because this is what I set out in my letter that I'm done with them, and I've got my initiation of the forensic securities audit set up, and that's what I'm going to do. So, public servants have failed their basic obligation of public service. In attempts at communicating errors in the public record, I have been ignored. According to 5 CFR 575.102, the definition of competencies is the knowledge, skills, abilities, behaviors, and other characteristics an individual needs to perform the duties of a position. According to 5 CFR 2635.101, basic obligation of public service, it is stated that public service is a public trust. It goes on to state, quote, each employee has a responsibility to the United States government and its citizens to place loyalty to the Constitution, laws, and ethical principles above private gain. To ensure that every citizen can have complete confidence in the integrity of the federal government, each employee shall respect and adhere to the principles of ethical conduct set forth in this section, as well as the implementing standards contained in this part and in supplemental agency regulations. That says the employee shall respect it, not us, them. Though I assure you, it is best to respect them yourself so you can help the employees learn how to respect them. It goes on to state further the general principles as the following general principles apply to every employee and may form the basis for the standards contained in this part. Where a situation is not covered by the standards set forth in this part, employees shall apply the principles set forth in this section in determining whether their conduct is proper. See, they're not supposed to be discerning whether our conduct is proper, because that's a misconstruing that we are part of their association as a trustee like them. No, they're supposed to be determining whether their conduct is proper. I have attempted to communicate several times with the district attorney in person and over the phone and via email to the Blackhawk County or Blackhawk Board of Directors about certain matters of private estate being administrated in Article 4 corporate courts and have been denied, ignored, and given legal advice to seek an attorney.
You know what I've found on a lot of these issues that you've brought up? How do I say this quick? We have trust law. We have a lot of constitutional law, which all over the board, both of those. We have law of man, all these different things. When we seek things in the trust capacity, we expect these people to, I'm writing you, write me back. Usually doesn't happen.
Right.
When we look at it, and the trust, this is I'm not saying it's correct, but it's switched around. These people deal in trust, and they've really messed up that trust. What I started looking into, this is for me, the securities acts, and I started finding remedy in that because they're not in trust. I expect them to be. I have used the newspaper, which is like the common thing that we used to all do. Use the newspaper to form my notice. And when you place anything to these people at a level of trust, such as a level that we all work with, when we deal with them, all they know is administrative, and emails can fall out, things can be manipulated, but the newspaper is your word posted for everybody to read. It's not my fault if they don't read. Nobody reads anymore. It's quite unfortunate. I found a lot of remedy in newspaper postings. Place that, and then you get a little thing from them, say it's off. Yeah, he did it. Piece of paper asking for it, showing that you posted that, and place that with all of your documents, and look to securities for your remedy. And you're going to see these people that you're dealing with drop off like flies. And you'll start dealing, especially because you're touching in on a lot of securities issues. When you start attacking trusts, when you start going after those type people, the only one that is heard that I have found are the trustees. And the only trustees that can answer me seem to be these, oh, I got it now, it's a brain fart. There's trustee indentured, the indentured trustee. They seem to be the only one I get remedy from.
Right, and that's why I say when you find their corporate entity and look up that SEC filing, the executive document 4.1, it's going to tell you who that trustee indenture is, and that's why I say it's all tied to that address and the real estate investment trust through the Postal Service. That's how you find. That's how you find the indentured trustee is the SEC certified security agreements.
Hey Keith, in your forms you file, you can even do a posting if you don't want to do a newspaper thing at your post office. Just that is how we're talking with each other. See, filing your forms, have that when you're talking with these people at lower levels, have that in your arsenal, your bag. Oh, you know, I filed it right here. It is higher than any other form I have found.
Well, yeah, that goes to what is it, UCC 1-314 or something like that. The different forms of writing, typing, electronic typing, and then written. Written is always going to supersede. Handwritten documents will always supersede anything else. So this goes to the common law. If you write out a document and you're in your common law capacity and you write that document out fully explaining your position and rebutting their points of law and the 12 presumptions, whatever you need to do, it goes as your law.
And in your trust that you make, to add to what Keith said, if you're forming a trust, which I suggest everybody renew your trust, your personal one, every year, every day, every minute, whenever you think about it, do it and add your thoughts to it, because in your trust indenture thing that you write up what you want, what Keith just said, place that in there, write it in there. That's your record. When we die, this recording, like this binder has a cord going through it. The recording. Right now, my life is a bunch of sheets of fucking paper out in the wind. And I am gathering them all, leaving the lies out, leaving all the shit. And I am recording my truth my way I live, how I am. That way, when I go to these I don't go to court, but when I have issues with others, I always have that with me, and people know what it says by my word and my
Yep.
action. So that recourse that we do is important, very important, and
Yep.
that's every day. Keith talked about journaling.
Yep. It's
All of
important to learn how to journal. That's why I said, again, get back to concise English and college composition so you can learn how to write, so you can create your own journal and have it presentable for evidence. Superior evidence. Superior evidence.
Keep
And
it
so it goes,
simple.
yep. And so I go on to say, denying one's obligation to the obligee in a public trust is misfeasance in the least, and oftentimes leads to malfeasance. This violates the basic obligations of competencies and ethics as stated in the Code of Federal Regulations. In 5 CFR 575.102, it also defines federal government. It states, quote, federal government means all entities of the government of the United States, including that mayoral form of government and the county. So, including the United States Postal Service and the Postal Regulatory Commission. Black Hawk County itself is an entity of the government of the United States by and through federal contracts for the zoning improvement plan that grants them the very foreign trade zones for which they operate. That is the zip code. They have an interlocal agreement with the Postal Service through the Chamber of Commerce. That's their contract. And that contract is the thing that allows them to operate as a foreign trade zone. In conclusion, it is now a loss of confidence and integrity of the federal government without just cause and certain lack of competencies evidenced by allowing errors and omissions that do in fact discredit the public record. See, I'm not making any accusation against any man. It's the record. I want to correct the record. And all who hold its offices. My apologies, but I must now insist on the expertise of the IRS and have an appointment set to initiate a forensic securities audit. This is your notice that I have divorced your lazy asses and am moving forward. Please do not contact me in any attempts to console yourselves. I am not your pen pal. Please
Never put
find
them
it.
above you. Never put them above you, Keith.
Yep.
In the rewording of that, I would just eliminate your expertise. They have no expertise over you. You're the creator. You hold all power, all knowledge, all.
Well, no, I mean, again, this is the expertise of the IRS records. I have no knowledge of those records. So please do not contact me in any attempts to console yourselves. I am not your pen pal. Please find an attorney's shoulder to cry on. Reverently. Yeah, I'm not going to worry about being an ass to him anymore. I was polite and kind before. I'm done. And this isn't the only time I've tried to contact them. I've contacted them in the past in relations to other situations, and they still haven't responded in those either. So it's a pattern of practice of non-response to the very people that they're obligated to respond to. That's the failure of the basic obligation of public service.
Always keeping your demeanor in check, in
Yes.
honor, not honorable, but in honor.
Yep. Yep. And don't get it wrong, folks. By putting a little disrespect in there doesn't mean it's dishonorable. And with that, folks, we are done for tonight. I hope you enjoyed tonight's stream. I certainly want to let everybody know I appreciate all your support. So please do, in like kind, in equal consideration, hit the like, share, and subscribe. And if you could share some love through the PayPal link, every little bit is appreciated always. What do you got on the way out, Robert?
I just, I don't ever want to come on here and think I'm a know-it-all because I know nothing. Or you and I've been listening, man, we've have our own personal interactions as well. And I hold you in high regard. So I don't want anybody thinking that I'm trying to take over or enforce my thoughts or beliefs. I never. That's never my
No,
intent.
no, I don't think anybody sees that. I think people see that we work together pretty well. I think we've never had any real arguments or anything. I think we're both on the
I'm
right
no
track.
stronger than you are, brother. I'm no stronger than you.
Yeah, I
We
think
are.
we're both on the same track. That it's all about the truth. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about doing what's right. So
Yes, I concur. That's all. Love you all.
absolutely,
Thank
absolutely.
you for everybody sharing and coming on. I'm noticing more and more people are coming to the truth and what's really going on here. And if anybody else has anything to offer, I should tell my crews out there at work, hey, I don't care, the janitor, anybody, give me, because I can't think of all these things that might happen. And everybody's opinion is valid and valued. And if it's not correct, if always, I always love that. Correct. I'm incorrect. Okay, well, let me help you. Since you're incorrect, I'll help you become, you know what I'm saying? The
Yep.
play of words is a trip, but I just wanted to let that be known. And I think everybody that you have on here is very, very intuitive, very insightful, and forthright. So I appreciate that honesty myself. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, and you folks know me. I'm going to drop a link to Flow State down in the chat. Everybody go over and join Flow State. Good topic going on. I'm going to go join myself. In the meantime, I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. That's to say, I don't care if you hate me. I don't care if you don't respect me. That's on you. So may God bless you and have a good night. We'll see you next time, folks. Bye now.
Brother.